Hi, I'm Janine Dare-Engstrom, and this is my video presentation for my capstone at Azusa Pacific University, PE 589, Physical Education and Exercise Science capstone with Professor Lemon in May 2019. The title of my capstone is A Gender Gap in Athletic Participation, and it examines this gender gap in athletic participation in middle schools. The purpose of the study is to explore coaches' perceptions, influencing factors to low female athletic participation, specifically in middle schools. And the two research questions that I focused on is how do middle school coaches perceive socioeconomics of females participating in athletics, and what is the perceived impact of cultural background of low participation in athletics. Female participation is less than male participation in middle schools, and although women athletics professionally at our all-time high, there's still a gender gap prominent in the middle school level. The following literature review examines influencing factors in female athletic participation. The first literature review focuses on the gender, socioeconomic, and enjoyment of physical activity. And this was a study done in Canada, and it examined the association of gender, socioeconomic status, weight status, and physical education enjoyment with organized and unorganized physical activity. And it was the participants ranged from 12 to 15 years of age, and approximately 1,600 students participated. 52% were boys and 48% were girls. So the data was collected in October of 1998 through June 1999 by a paper and pencil questionnaire, and the Canadian researchers used mixed method design. The results: in both age groups, girls participated less frequently in unorganized physical activities than boys, but not in organized physical activities. The results of the study implied there is a gap in gender and socioeconomic status in relation to participation in unorganized and organized physical activity. Further exploration needs to be done in this area to determine how socioeconomic factors in the gender gap as it relates to participation in organized physical activity. The second literature review focuses on teacher expectations and gender of teacher factors. And Constantinow, Manson, Silverman studied to determine how middle school girls perceive their PE teachers and the gender role expectations of how these perceptions affect girls participating and their attitude towards physical education or physical activity. The participants included 22 girls in 7th and 8th grade and 2 teachers, 1 female, 1 male. And the procedure that the researchers used were Huberman and Miles' 4-stage analysis process. And the study was conducted using observation, informal conversations, and formal interviews. The results: by having a teacher create a safe atmosphere by teaching all skills and encouraging participation, and this allowed for an even playing level for both genders to participate. The results imply that girls' perceptions about competition and prescribed gender lines are changing. Having a coach or PE teacher establish safe environment could potentially close the gender gap in athletics. So the study showed that the female participants were more apt to participate in the activity if it was safe and the skills were taught by either female or male teacher. The third literature review looks at differences in extracurricular activities, and the researcher Variel studied variations in participation characteristics between Hispanic and non-Hispanic youths, as well as variations within a Hispanic group. Participants included 471 that were recruited from a school in Texas, and the average age was 13, and all of the participants were in 7th grade. The procedure and methods used were trained research staff to conduct individual interviews while students were involved in activity, Veriel used a regression to analyze the data to determine the number of hours spent on extracurricular activity. The data reviewed there's a difference in sports participation among middle school age Hispanic students. The results of this study implied that middle school age students from low-income families are less likely to participate in extracurricular activities. And the study reveals some factors that can play a role in the gender gap in athletic participation. The methodology used by the researcher for this study was to explore middle school coaches' perceptions of the factors influencing low female participation in athletics in middle school athletics. A quantitative survey was used to gather these perceptions to statistically analyze responses that may be generalized to a greater population of middle school athletic participation. This chapter includes the following sections: participants, survey, instrument, procedure, and data analysis. So the participants for this study included middle school coaches that have coached in the past 2 years within 11 middle schools in the district in Southern California. All participants had coached an entire previous season. The method used was quantitative data collected through a survey via Google Forms. And the interview guide was a middle school athletics coaches perception survey. And it was a two-part survey, 4 demographic questions, 10 true-false questions, and 10 Likert scale questions regarding socioeconomic factors and influence of cultural from a coach's perception of participation in middle school athletics. The results from the survey. There is definitely a gender gap in coaches. Again, 31 coaches participated in the survey. 24 of them were male and 7 of them were female. And the amount of students that they coached were 410 male and 253 females. Of those 253 females, 56 of them were coached by a female coach. The rest were coached by a male. The second result was parent involvement. Regarding socioeconomic status, usually both parents are working or only one parent is working. So further research needs to be done on the socioeconomic status of the students and athletes that are participating. But parent involvement plays a huge role in females participating in sports, and having at least one parent at a game shows that they're willing to participate in after school activities such as sports. Will close the gender gap. The cultural background, the female student athletes were more likely to miss practice due to family obligations. They would have to go home and take care of the younger sibling or help at the house. So that played a factor in the gender gap, as well as sports participation outside of school. A lot of the students, the coaches' perceptions stated that the students were participating in outside participation, but further research needs to be done on if they were the gender of those students participating, as well as socioeconomic class. One of the main results that came out of this study was equipment needs for student athletes. One of the questions was posed was, where do students get their equipment? And more than 42% was provided by the coach, and 33% was they had stated that they were unable to purchase the equipment. So the majority of the student athletes participating in after-school athletics, they are either provided or haven't been able to purchase the equipment. Most of the coaches did not know if their site offered financial assistance to these student athletes. So further research needs to be done on that as well. But I think if students were able to understand that equipment is needed and they are able to get the help, that they can still come out for middle school athletics if they don't have the equipment needed to play. Their coaches will find a way, or to work with schools to get that equipment for them. Discussion. Adolescents with low socioeconomic status participated less frequently in organized physical activity, both outside and in school. Approximately 51% of the coaches provided equipment to the students, and the majority of student athletes were unable to purchase equipment. Again, I think if we are able, as coaches or PE teachers or parents, if we're able to help the student athlete just get out there and try out for a team, equipment will be provided. Influence of family and friends is shaping the levels of physical activity, according to Coleman and further researchers. More than half the coaches perceived practice was being missed due to family obligations. Again, further research needs to be done on the gender that are missing practices or games and the reason for that. And the gender of a coach has an influence. There was a study done in chapter 4 that displays the girls feel more comfortable trying out for a team or being coached by the same gender. So they feel more comfortable with a female coach to talk about things that they're going through biologically, or if they just need to talk to, they just feel more comfortable talking to a female coach. Recommendations, implications, and future research. School district needs to hire more female coach. I think closing the gap at the beginning, at the coaches level, will show that there's more female student athletes wanting to try out for athletics if there's a female coach. So coaches need to inform student athletes if financial assistance is available or equipment is provided. I think if when they're advertising to come out and try out for a sport through the middle school, let the students know that they don't need to have anything. Just bring yourself, bring a good attitude, and try out. The rest, such as equipment, can be figured out as they go through the process. Implications. Begin closing the gender gap at the coaching level. Females feel more comfortable with the same gender coach. Again, like I explained earlier, females feel more comfortable talking to other females about certain things that they may be going through. Increase participation by providing equipment in low socioeconomic schools. Maybe set up programs at the district level and provide equipment to the schools that may be Title I schools first. Further research, larger sample size, all levels of education. I'd like to explore not only at the middle school, but at the elementary and high school level. Geographic location and various seasons. This sample only looked at the winter season sports that are currently coaching. So further research needs to be done on spring and fall coaches. Sample family demographics to look at their income and the dynamic of the family. What are other siblings do? How do they determine if only one family member gets to participate in a club sport or extracurricular activities at school? How is that determination made? So at this time, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to watch this video. I'd like to thank all my professors throughout this program, and Azusa Pacific for providing an opportunity to go through this process and be supportive administratively, professionally, and with all my professors. Thank you very much for your support academically. Take care.